Hello besties, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to my January 2026 bullet journal setup. It feels so weird to be saying that new year, but this is the first setup, aside from the opening setup of course, in this new journal. And this is actually one of the wildest Plan With Me videos I ever filmed because we went on quite a journey with this one. As you can see, I already have artwork made for this cover page, and it's because I actually spent about an hour and a half filming artwork to put in the cover page of this setup that by the end of the video, or maybe you could tell by the thumbnail, I actually didn't use. Let me step back and give you a little bit of backstory, a little bit of context. So basically, for January, I wanted to do a night theme in my bullet journal because I recently read The Second Death of Locke, and it was a night fantasy book, and I really liked the idea of drawing a female knight for the cover page, right? So I made the artwork in my sketchbook as I always do, or I have done many times in the past. I used alcohol markers, and then I cut it out and put it in my journal. Well, the rest of the spreads in this setup I wanted to do kind of in a similar vibe as the night aesthetic. So I looked up on Pinterest a bunch of medieval gothic windows because I love artwork that I see all the time of like these really detailed and intricate window designs. And so I took inspiration from that to make the spreads for the rest of this theme. Currently on the left, I am actually making a calendar, and I tried to do it so the calendar itself is the window, if you can tell. It does have kind of small boxes, but I figured it would be okay because I don't really have that much going on this month besides traveling and then the semester starting back up again for university. All that to say though, again, I really wanted to test myself with a new area of drawing, and that is line art for these really detailed gothic windows. And you'll see as the spreads go on in this setup, I do multiple different kinds throughout the rest of the pages, and by the time I finished the second to last spread, I started thinking to myself that I really like the art of the windows a lot better than I liked the art of the knight herself. I think she looks really cool. I think I worked a lot on her stance to make her look intimidating, like she's marching towards the camera. Definitely not an easy thing for me to draw, but I, try my best. And if you want to see the full time lapse or you want to hear a tutorial, comment down below. I could maybe reuse the footage for a different video to post next week for you guys, but I cut it out of this video completely because, like I said, I will be removing the artwork by the end of the video, and it's because I just decided that the two styles didn't really match very well. The artwork that I used for the calendar, for the rest of the pages with the medieval windows, it's very detailed and specific, and I feel like this artwork on the right was a little bit too colorful, a little bit too, not even cartoonish, but it's not a very realistic drawing, right? So it just didn't fit the vibes as much, and so I ended up making some changes along the way. And sometimes in my bullet journal, I get frustrated when I'm filming something and it doesn't turn out how I envision it. I actually quite frequently, when I'm sketching my bullet journal spreads, think that the pencil sketch looks a lot better than the final product. Sometimes when there's like a lot of really cool color, like alcohol marker shading or something, I appreciate the final product a lot more. But in the case of the calendar, for example, I actually preferred the pencil sketch before I use all the markers and pens and stuff than I do with the final product. It's just a personal opinion, but all that being said, like whenever I sketch out the themes before I start filming, it always looks one way, and then I finish filming and it looks very different, and I have to just like sit there and be proud of it because I can't undo it, right? I wouldn't say I'm winging it on camera, but it's definitely like a first time, only time kind of shoot, obviously, whenever I'm drawing in my bullet journal on camera for you guys. So it's always a little bit of a risk to see if the final outcome is going to turn out exactly how I envision it in my head. And in this particular month, it didn't quite match my intention, but I decided to just take some time, and I eventually will go back to the cover page and redo some artwork for that very first page. One thing that happened this particular week, I actually filmed this video over the course of 3 separate days, which I usually don't do, but because my schedule was very busy this week, I had to just like make do. So I had time every night, I suppose, in between filming to kind of think about the spreads, think about what I like, think about what I didn't like, and then make changes going forward that way, which is a luxury that I usually don't have because I usually film all in one day. But that was very helpful for me because I could decide what I, again, liked about each spread. And I'll tell you why, like in this particular instance, because we are on the second spread, as you can see, and this was one of my favorite pages. In fact, I think this is my favorite full spread. It's just not my favorite window drawing from the entire setup. Basically, on the left, we're going to have a monthly overview page, and I wanted to do it in a window again, similar to the calendar page, although I think that this one is more successful because the calendar page, the window looked a little funky, I'm not gonna lie. This one looks a lot better because all of the content is going to be literally within the window panes, and then we have like the spires and the hooks and the intricate detailing and metalwork and all that stuff in the window, like surrounding the content. But instead of just looking at a window, you could also see this as like a 2-column table. So basically there's just 2 different categories in here. And on the left, I'm going to have, I think I did a goals for 2020, like January 2026 section. And then on the right, I'm going to have an end of year reflection. My thought when starting the monthly overview page was that I would have one section for accomplishments and one section for challenges, similar to how I did in my 2026 bullet journal setup, if you guys watched that, which by the way, I know that video is actually doing really well. So thank you guys for your support on that video. And if you are new to this channel, hello, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for subscribing and checking out my bullet journaling channel. But like I said, in that video, I did a big goal setting spread for 2020, or actually it was more like a reflection of 2025 and then a different spread for goal setting, but I had accomplishments and challenges. But while I was filming this video, I was like, well, I want to be able to set miniature goals for myself every single month, even if it's not like a huge thing, just like ideas or plans that I have for myself every month to keep myself more aligned as 2026 goes on. And I didn't really have a space for that in this setup already. So I decided to do a goal setting on the left and then a reflection that I will fill out on the 31st of January on the right, instead of the whole accomplishments and challenges thing. Now on the right side of the spread, we will get to that in just a minute, but I'm going to be doing a reading wrap-up page over here. This is a new thing for me in that I'm actually prepping myself for a spread that I will fill in at the end of the month as far as reading goes. I've done it in the past where I've made reading journal setups or reading journal pages, reading wrap-up pages, TBR pages, things like that. Although it usually is an in-the-moment thing for a video where I will just like sit down and film and make a page for you guys because it's, you know, super fun to sit down and journal, things like that. But I rarely like prepare myself to make spreads and then leave it empty for the entire month. However, I've realized something about myself is that I love having these like time capsule pages in my journal where I, you know, have things like memories or books that I was reading or playlist spreads or things like that, you know, but I want them to be cute. And when the month is actually in motion, I don't have time to sit down and make a spread like that. Or at least if I do, my time is being dedicated to other fun hobbies and not journaling. So I thought that if I prepared myself, if I made a spread for a reading wrap up for January, aka a place that I can list or talk about or paste pictures of all the different books that I read in the month of January, but it's already ready for me. All the work is done as far as the artwork. That means all that I have to do later in the month is spend maybe 20 minutes filling it out and it will look so good. But it also means that now I can just leave myself a pretty blank spread for future me to come back to. You know, it's like I'm doing the work now so that future me doesn't have to think as hard in the future. That's also one reason that I like to do a lot of weekly spreads in batches, which means that at the beginning of the month, I will make weekly spreads for the entire month. Either they're like all the same spread multiple times or they're all different. But that way during the month, I don't have to actually focus on making a new weekly spread every single week because it's already done for me. I used to really enjoy when I was younger, like making a new weekly spread every Sunday. It was very therapeutic and built into my routine to just like prepare myself for the upcoming week. But now I feel like my weeks go by so quickly. I'm always very, very busy in college. And so I don't really have time to sit down and do that, which is why working in advance just is very helpful for me. I know I have a lot of followers and subscribers who are probably like parents or very busy with work or potentially in university and school, all different walks of life, but I'm sure y'all can very much relate to me when I say that my busy schedule sometimes makes it very hard to bullet journal, which is why I recommend just like finding one day every month to sit down, set up everything. I mean everything, like the calendar, the weeklies, the, I don't know, expenses tracker, your habit tracker, your reading wrap up. I mean, only make spreads that work for you and that you need, obviously, but whatever those look like for you, just do it all in one day. And that way you can spend the next 30 days planning in a spread or two that's already pre-designed. It's pre-made. It's ready for you to just dump all your thoughts, your plans, your ideas, your events, your to-do lists, things like that. It just helps your future self, you know, and that's what I've really been working on recently, is spending time so that my future self can be very proud and excited to use these bullet journaling spreads. Now, speaking of, we're on the next spread here, and I want to do like a weekly dashboard on the left here before I get into the actual weekly spread on the right. So I made another window, and this is definitely one of my favorites. Honestly, it's this one, the one on the previous page, and then the one I'm going to make at the end of this video for the cover page that I'm going to replace the night drawing with. I think the only one that really messes with me is the calendar one. I tried to do something funky where like the window itself is skinny, but then the calendar extends past it. Obviously, we're not looking at that right now, so it might be hard to visualize. I apologize. But yeah, that one is a little funky to me, not my favorite, but the other windows I think looked really good. And if you're curious on how to make these, I just recommend looking up on Pinterest some inspiration pictures. If you follow me on Pinterest, which by the way, my account is linked down below, as well as all of of my other social media, but I have a lot of them saved to my public boards. So you can go check out the inspiration pictures that I actually used myself to inspire my drawings here. But it's just a lot of symmetry and turrets, which are triangles, and then, I don't know, arches and things like that. So it's honestly not that hard to draw. You can definitely do it. But yeah, it was so much fun. Anyway, going back to the weekly dashboard. So on the left, I have two different main things. On the top, I have a packing list section because I'm actually going to be taking a trip to New Mexico this month with the hockey team at my university. I obviously going to be packing a lot more than what can fit on this little to-do list section here, but I wanted to make a list of places for me to put all the essentials that I may forget about, like not my clothes or like my electronics or anything like that, but like, I don't know, my SD card specifically for hockey, or my microphone, or I don't know, what else were we bringing? I don't know, the specifics are irrelevant, but basically I just want to list here things that I might remember during the month, and I want to make sure that I don't forget about them when I'm actually going to pack whenever I'm preparing for my trip. Below that, I have a box that I'm labeling academics, and this is basically my academic planner for the rest of the month. Usually I will do an entire monthly planner where I have a big chart that has all my classes, all my weeks, and I will also have a weekly academic planner that breaks up all of my weekly to-do lists for university into each of my classes. But this particular month, I think I literally have a week of school. Like, my school starts after Martin Luther King Day, which is really nice because I have most of January off, but because of that, I only really need like one box for some academic to-do lists, and then in February I will go back to my very big tracking system. So you'll definitely see that next month. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it, of course. But yeah, that's why that box is very small. Now on the Dutch doors on the right, if you didn't notice, I did cut miniature spreads into this journal, and by that I mean I had multiple spreads that were full size, but I cut the top, bottom, and part of the side off, excluding these little tabs here, so I can make what's called a Dutch door and have like miniature spreads inside this big spread. And I'm using different types of washi tape to add some detail to these Dutch door tab holders. What do you call them? I guess just tabs. I did this last setup with my opening setup in this bullet journal where I used different kinds of washi tape to really add some cool detail to the tabs, and I thought that they looked really good. It was actually my favorite part of that first setup in this journal. So I wanted to do something similar, but I couldn't quite find a washi tape that was the exact color palette that I was using. So what I did was I found multiple washi tapes, one base color that was like a periwinkle with a white grid on it that I could use as the bottom layer, and then I cut out some dark blue floral designs from a clear washi tape and I layered those on top. This meticulous process was actually very therapeutic, and I think they look really good. So you might see more of that style this year. Okay, we're going back to the cover page because this is where I actually peeled off the artwork, like I said. Thank goodness I only used a glue stick and some double-sided tape to paste her in, so it honestly peeled off quite easily, and I just kind of scratched off the residue from a little bit of glue with the side of my scissor. So then I went to bed, woke up, next day I pulled out my journal again and I redrew a cover page, and this by far is the best window I think from the entire setup. It only tells you that like literally practice makes perfect. The more that you draw something, the more that you get better, because this was the last one that I drew and it was my absolute favorite. So yeah, I just decided to make things much simpler for my cover page this month. It's literally just a window with clouds, very similar to the other artwork I've been making this entire setup so far. So maybe you really liked the knight and you wanted to keep her. I'm sorry. You know, the knight looks really cool. I do like her. I do think that she's gonna live very happily in my sketchbook. I didn't trash it, don't worry. I just put it back in my sketchbook. But I think that this fits the vibe of the other pages more. I think that this is an artwork style that I really like, that that I had a lot of fun working on this month. And again, it's my favorite one so far. I think that the proportions look better here than they do on any other page in the setup so far. So yeah, it was definitely worth it to make a last minute change and like fix what I thought just wasn't working for me at the time. And I definitely encourage you as well to be flexible and forgiving with your journal. As always, if there's a mistake like that you can't fix or undo, it's never a huge deal. You know, it's just a journal. It's always handmade. There's going to be some little quirks about it. But if there was a way to change something that you don't like and you want to do so, nothing's stopping you from doing that, you know? And even though I was doing this on camera, I was like, you know what? I want to change it. So I'm going to change it. And I did. And I'm very grateful that I did. The only thing I really couldn't change was after I'd pasted in the night originally, I wrote the word Jan at the top for January, and then I'd drawn a couple sparkles. So when I drew the window the second time, I was like, I have to keep in mind that I can't erase it because it is done with black pen. So I have to just like work around it. So what I did was I just added more sparkles, I added more grids, and I added the word Uary, aka U-A-R-Y, and finished the word January at the top there. It wasn't quite in a good position for me to finish like January horizontally, so I just like split the word in half, I guess, but you can consider it artistic and not a mistake that I made, okay? We don't have to tell anybody that it was not on purpose, okay? It was definitely on purpose, guys, definitely on purpose. Now, believe it or not, we're not quite done yet. I know that I've gone back and forth on like all of these pages a million times, but I wanted to add one last thing. This was another last minute idea that I had while like sleeping on these spreads and coming back to them the day later. I actually wanted to add stippling. And if you don't know, stippling is a type of shading where you basically draw a lot of little dots, and the closer they are together, the darker something looks, and the further the dots are apart from each other, the lighter something looks. So if you have something like a flat wash of color and you do stippling on top of it, you can create the illusion of lights and shadows and darker sections and lighter sections based on where and how frequent these little dots are. I'll put a picture on the screen here so you can reference it in case you're very confused as to what I'm talking about, but I thought that adding a bunch of dots, not only as shading to make these like windows more detailed and more intricate, but also just kind of around the page would make everything look a little bit more magical and a little bit more like, I don't know, sparkly, you know? I already add sparkles all over almost every single page of my bullet journal that I ever make. For some reason, I always want sparkles everywhere, and that's just something about me. But I think that just adding these dots and this stippling gave another layer to it. You honestly may not be able to see this on camera, I'm so sorry, but I see it in person, okay? And I think it looks cool. So it's definitely worth the 20 minutes and a hand cramp to make this all work. With that being said, that is the end of this setup. I hope you guys enjoyed coming along with me on this very complicated process, but I like the final result. In case you didn't know, I will be using the space in the Dutch store to make the other weekly spreads later in the month. I just am probably going to copy the exact same layout that I used here, aka a grid. So I thought it might be a little boring for you guys to watch me do that like 4 more times. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, subscribe if you want to see more bullet journaling content from me. 2026 is going to be a good year and I'm excited about it. So I hope that you guys are too. Have an amazing rest of your day. I love you so, so much. And I will see you guys very soon for a new video.